Let's just go ahead and get started. We have 3 panels on the board. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'll go first. My name is Spencer Pearson. I was actually a math major, class of 2016. Currently, I live in Dallas, Texas, and I work as an inside sales rep or inside sales engineer with an HVAC equipment company in the area called McMillan James Equipment Company. Christina, go for it.
So I'm Christina Bishop Jackson. I have both my bachelor's and my PhD from the University of Tulsa. I graduated in 2005 and 2010. I've been working for Honeywell for the last 14 years, and I'm currently there an engineering director over various equipment, and I'm still the general manager for the Calavis business. I live in Tulsa.
All right, yeah, I guess I'll go ahead. My name is Donovan Adesro. I'm a bachelor's petroleum engineer, graduate of 2019, so pretty recently. And I've been working at Occidental Petroleum as a completion engineer since I started, and I am based out of Houston.
All right. Hey, Leslie, remind us real quick, how are they are they just announcing questions one at a time? Or are they typing them in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Welcome everybody. If you've got questions for our panelists, feel free to put them in the Q&A, raise your hand. We're hoping that this is a dialogue back and forth that answers questions, provides insight, and connects you with other alumni within the network. So feel free, we can start with Q&A to get things started. But if you have a follow-up or a piece of experience to share, a piece of advice for the students on the call, please don't hesitate.
Perfect.
So I see a hand raised. Do you have a question?
Hello, Christina. My name is Ghulam Haider, and I am a PhD student in mechanical engineering. Right now, I'm in North Campus. I was running to attend this meeting. So I see you are from Honeywell, and my cousin recently got an internship in Honeywell. She is moving to Connecticut for the summer. She has done her master's in electrical engineering. So that's what clicked me. So just a general question, since I'm a PhD student, what sort of R&D opportunities are available, or how much R&D work is being done in Honeywell, or where is your research and development center? Just a little bit more about, since I recently heard about this company, I knew about it, and since you are here, so it clicked my mind. So can you please tell us something more about Honeywell in general and research and development in specific? Thank you.
Sure. So Honeywell is a multinational conglomerate. So we have about 140,000 employees worldwide. So we have 4 main divisions within Honeywell. I'm within UOP, which used to be United Oil Products. So we're kind of the legacy oil and gas part, but we do alternative energy as well. That's a part of the PMT, which you see up here, which is Performance Materials and Technologies. So within PMT, we also have a lot of chemical plants that we own that would create catalysts, absorbents, the materials that they use in bulletproof vests, the fluoride that you put in your toothpaste varies widely, right? And so R&D in the PMT sector is very large. So we have R&D facilities in New York, and then we have R&D facilities in the Chicagoland area within that part of the company. We also have aerospace is our next largest part of Honeywell, and they're headquartered out of Phoenix. And most of the R&D within the aerospace industry is either Phoenix. There's a lot in the California, LA area, as well as the Seattle and Greater Washington, Oregon area. And then we also have specialty materials, SPS. So that's where a lot of our IT focus is. So the IT R&D area software is headquartered out of Atlanta. And then the last is Honeywell Building Technologies. So if you think about smart buildings and smart grids, that's where that kind of technology comes from. So, hires both like mechanical, electrical engineering, as well as computer programming, math, and that is headquartered in New Jersey. So Honeywell, very large, lots of R&D opportunities. They have cut back, I think, the internship program during pandemic times, but there are still direct to hire positions that are on the website.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much.
Let's see.
Other questions from folks for any of us? Well, Freddie has his hand up.
I guess maybe this might be a better question for you, Dr. Jackson, since you do the chemical engineering stuff as well. But for me, since I'm studying chemical engineering, I've kind of been on the pre-medicine track because I've always loved medicine, biology, and all that type of stuff. But kind of the more I'm going about this, the more I'm kind of realizing I really, really love chemical engineering as well. And I'm trying to decide if do I want to stick with that pre-med, go for neurosurgery, which is also a whole lot of school, and I'd be going into debt for that, or do I kind of want to maybe stick with chemical engineering and maybe go to graduate school for something like that? I'm not sure if you said that you had your PhD in chemical engineering, but oh, awesome. Okay, so kind of, I guess, what extra opportunities would there be if I decide to get a PhD in chemical engineering versus if I decide just to maybe stick with a bachelor's or maybe even a master's in chemical engineering?
Yeah, so I don't think anyone should ever get a PhD because they want more money. I'd say that, right? So it's a significant amount of time that you're going into things without making a typical engineer salary. So I always preface it with that. So I think the key is partially job market, right? So depending on what year you're graduating in, if things are kind of bad, right, and there aren't a significant amount of opportunities, far better to go into graduate school than to not be using your degree at all. So that's something to be thinking about right now in particular. I think the reason that I got my PhD is, you're not going to be shocked on that one, that I like to teach. Right. So I wanted the opportunity to be able to go back and become a professor if I wanted to. Right now I have the best of both worlds, getting to teach as an adjunct and still be in industry. But as far as opportunities go, the R&D space, I think, really does look for somebody with either a master's or a PhD in chemical engineering, but you can actually be considered to be overpricing yourself for like a traditional engineering role. So sometimes it's actually harder to get a traditional engineering job once you have that master's or PhD, because your employer is going to consider that that's not what you wanted to do, or you would have just gone ahead and done it. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It's like we have another hand raised.
Yeah. Who was that? Rahul? Go for it.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Jackson. My name is Rahul, and I'm a PhD candidate in chemical engineering. So I'm going to graduate in summer, and over the past few years, I've worked on materials and material synthesis, biofuel synthesis, and catalysis for methane to hydrogen conversion. So I have a question regarding moving to industry, because as you said earlier, you like to teach, and I wanted to be a professor as well. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that it's not for me and I want to move to industry. So what are the things apart from the research experience you look for when you're hiring a PhD candidate in chemical engineering at Honeywell or in general, which we necessarily don't get from academia?
I think it's a good question. So I think, and this I think is for anybody, whether it's a PhD student or somebody who just has a bachelor's. I look for somebody who is able to communicate their ideas. That's key. It's really the soft skills. It's whether I think that you're going to be able to, go in and work with a team and be able to provide your ideas within that team environment, and collaborate with others. That's critical. Your ability to assimilate new information and be able to learn and grow. I think those are key in both PhD and bachelor level, because I'm going to assume that, most PhDs don't go into industry doing exactly what they did. And similarly, you're coming in with an undergraduate degree and you only have, a very small bucket of skills, right? So most of it's going to be on the job training. So I want to make sure that you have the ability to quickly learn new information, be resourceful, find ways to network, get all the information that you need to be able to do your job successfully. And I usually tailor most of my interview questions surrounding that. My assumption is if you have a degree and your GPA is relatively good, then you probably know all the technical stuff I would care about. So I'm going to focus on the rest.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
To see Gulam. See your hand is up. Go for it.
Yeah, sorry for another question. Just Dr. Jackson, like Freddie is my friend, so he knew this. So what you are doing is kind of ideal for me. I love teaching and exploring and learning new things. That's who I am. So, and I want to keep my relationship with teaching, for lifelong.
Mhm.
So you mentioned you are in industry and as well as in academia. So how do you balance this, or how does this really work? Because my understanding was that either you can be a professor or do some collaboration with industry projects, but you have the best of the both worlds.
Mhm.
Really, this is kind of like, personally, I think it's something which I want to do. I want to keep my relationship with teaching, alive. So can you tell us more about your journey, like after your PhD, like what routes did you take, or how did you make this happen? Just a little bit of guidance. I will highly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you can ask Leslie, right? I think I'm an alumni that you can't beat away with a stick, right? So I'm around a lot and involved in very different ways. So I think, for me, it was I love my alma mater, and I want to be involved, and I wanted to be able to stay in Tulsa, and that allows me to stay really active. So, I was part of the booster club for the athletics programs. I'm a season ticket holder. I have a scholarship that my husband and I have set up. I'm now on the advisory board for the chemical engineering department. And I'd say it was really, step by step, right? Because I guess I'm hit my 20 years of graduating from high school. So, it's been, little bits of keeping those connections, being involved in alumni networks, finding ways that I can give back to my university. And then I find that the university continues to give back to me as well.
I'm going to jump in here if that's okay. I don't have any engineering advice. I am a business alumna, but I think Dr. Jackson is spot on that the TU network is very powerful, and the way that you choose to embrace that and stay involved, it doesn't have to mean giving financially, but attending events, being here today is a really big step in that, and just finding ways to improve upon yourself and create those larger networks. And Donovan, I might pick on you for a second because you're a recent graduate, and I know with the demanding studies that you all have and the jobs that you all have, that finding time can be hard, but Dr. Jackson's a very amazing, incredible example of how staying connected with that network can be a benefit outside of the classroom. So Donovan, I'm going to kick it over to you and ask what your experience has been like in your industry, but also as an alumnus since graduating from TU.
For sure. And yeah, thank you again for having me. Yeah, so, being alumnus from TU, similar to Dr. Jackson, I'm very just, I owe pretty much everything to TU just because of how well they prepared me for industry and, if I wanted to go to grad school, that as well. But so just how well they prepared me allowed me to, do well in internships and in my job. So I find any way I can to give back, whether it's participating here or, I'll have TU students reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, hey, what do you think about this? How can I, just little things like that, just any way I can particularly give back. I love to do it. In terms of the industry, obviously I'm in oil and gas. So last year was a bit of it was a bit hectic when oil dropped to like negative on the futures. So it was interesting times, but what everyone tells me is like, this is pretty cyclical. So, I mean, this one was a little bit extreme, but these things happen, and generally still a great place to be. I mean, as you guys know, it's in so many different things that I'm still passionate about it, and I still find the work really challenging, and I love that challenge. So if I can answer any direct questions, I'm happy to. Or not. But one thing I did want to say is, for you guys who are doing that blended schedule or, half online, I really commend you guys. That is awesome. I know me in particular, if I had to do it online, it would be a struggle for me. I really do better in the classroom. So just keep it up, and hopefully you guys are almost through that kind of tough part. So, yeah.
Hi, Donovan.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello. So this is Shicheng. Sorry, I came in late. I didn't receive any link and neither gift card this morning. So Mr. Gentleman just helped me out here. So I just got in, and without knowing anything, knowing what the topic of this meeting, I don't know anything. So if you sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to see you guys. I'm an alumni too. So I actually want to ask a question to you, Donovan, because I'm an electrical engineer, and I was laid off during COVID, and then so I work in the oil and gas industry, and I checked your LinkedIn profile pretty quickly, and I know you're working in the oil and gas industry. So I want to know, how's the oil and gas industry? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, like I was mentioning, it's cyclical. So right now it was tough last year because we really had to turn on a dime essentially, right? So I mean, I'm just thinking back to 2019, and in 2019 we had met with our kind of higher up managers. They had this great budget outlined. We're going to do this, and that. It's going to be great. We're going to spend this on science, and it was just really good plan. And then obviously when everything shut down, it was okay. We need to do a complete 180. We need to cut spending as quick as we can. We need to drop rigs. And so it was really, and then on top of that, we were remote. So it was challenging for sure. One of the things we did was, so in terms of field personnel, we obviously use a bunch of contractors. And so one thing we did was kind of replace some of those contractors with engineers, so salaried engineers. So that kind of helped from the budget perspective. And it's tough for the contractors, right? Because you feel for them. But yeah, obviously it's a business decision at the end of the day. So that was one of the things we did. Obviously, any kind of major science projects any major CapEx was kind of halted for the current period at least. So now things are starting to turn around a little bit. We're not kind of completely out of the waters, but it's looking a little bit better. So thankfully this kind of downturn we're still technically in it, but it was a lot shorter than it probably could have been. So as of right now, we're doing okay. We're bringing some contractors back. We're hoping to replace get everyone's job back. That's one thing I'd love to see. That way everyone still has a paycheck to feed their family. So it's turning around now, but obviously last 8 to 10 months was it got a little rough there.
That's cool. That's a lot of insight, actually. So my girlfriend is still a college student at TU. She's a applied math major, and she got her first job out of college and in somewhere near DC, Tyson's. So we're moving there. Recently, still, yeah, I'm working right now, but still I'm looking for a job there down there. So thanks for all those insight about oil and gas and thinking about choosing architect companies and any field work like the construction sites. Yeah, that's something I'm thinking of. Yeah, and appreciate all the knowledge and your opinions about oil and gas. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, keep it up. And I'd say one thing is definitely try to network as much as possible right now. I think Dr. Jackson touched on that. That's definitely going to be key when there's a limited supply of jobs. You really want to make sure you at least know a few people that are maybe higher up or just, have some good connections at the company. It's just the more the merrier. So, but yeah, I'm sure you'll find something eventually. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I see Justa's hand up. Justa, go for it.
Okay, hi. So I am a underclassman, so I have a little less experience knowing what certain job titles mean. Like I Googled them before the event, but I am just really curious as to what you guys' jobs are like just from the day-to-day at your companies.
That's an awesome question. Don't know which ones to start. So I probably just look at each other and wait until people start to say something.
You want to start, Spencer, about your job?
Sure. Yeah. So the official title is Inside Sales Representative. There's a wide variety of titles that are very. Some companies call it Inside Sales Engineer. Some call it Estimator. Some call it Pricing Analyst. I've seen many different roles with the same title. Basically, I don't know how I got into this industry. I just kind of stumbled into it, ass backwards, basically. But so I worked for a HVAC, what's essentially a manufacturer's rep. So essentially, we basically are the middleman between a lot of large commercial HVAC companies and the engineers and contractors who purchase their equipment for various construction projects. Most of my role, I just started with this company back in August. I had a little bit of HVAC experience before that, similar role with a smaller company. Basically, a lot of my role is we have a lot of our outside sales engineers. They're working with their customers who are all engineers, contractors, school districts. They get basically plans and schedules for a variety of new construction projects that are going on. And they send it to my team and we say, hey, we want to try and bid on this equipment, that equipment. So my team is working together with the outside sales engineers, with their customers, just trying to put together pricing and just trying to sell equipment for the manufacturers that we represent. That's a quick summary of it. I'll stop right there. Christina, you want to go next?
Sure. So I have a lot of hats, but so my general manager hat that I'm still wearing, so that's P&L, financial responsibility for a couple of the product lines that we have within UOP. So overall working with sales, engineering, logistics, procurement, as well as owning forecasting and month-to-month financial responsibility for that business. And then my engineering director hat. So I have product ownership for several other businesses that we have within UOP. So I get to help with innovation pitches, finding ways to grow market share, and then own the engineering responsibility to then, go do it once we get business approval to do something. So have accountability for about 200 folks right now. Donovan?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, mine's not going to be as impressive, but yeah, so my day-to-day as completion engineer is, so again, just to reiterate for maybe some of those who aren't familiar, completions typically deal with how after the well is drilled, there's a certain way we try to stimulate the well to try and maximize the oil we get out of the ground. So I focused on simulations for Texas, Delaware, so in the Permian Basin. So if you hear about like West Texas and Midland, doing a lot of the frac simulations for Oxy on the Texas Delaware side, as well as analyzing new designs. My official team is the well analysis and design team. So any type of a new technical design that we're doing that would kind of I would fall into the completion side of that. And we also have a drilling engineer. And then we have a flowback engineer, so a production engineer. So pretty much have a few of the main designs all into one team, if that makes sense. So completions, drilling, chemical engineering, or sorry, production engineering. Sorry, I forgot about that. But yeah, so my day-to-day is really just analyzing. It could be anything from DFIT data. So DFIT is like a diagnostic fracture injection test. Not to get too technical, but just different tests that we do in the field. I'll analyze those on the completion side, but it can really vary. But mostly just around the technical side of designing the well, if that makes some sense. So.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
No problem. I see Gulam.
Yeah, Dr. Jackson, I have one more question, last question, since it's pretty interesting. So you mentioned you wear a financial hat as well. So I have worked in industry. I worked for Unilever Pakistan.
Mhm.
So I was hired as a management trainee right out of my undergrad. So I didn't know anything about business side of things. So I learned a lot about like business on the job over there. So that got me started. So now I do my own learning about financial statements or financial ratios. Or so my question is that, did you have any formal financial education, or did you just learn like this business aspect of the job on the job? Or what do you recommend? Should an engineer or a PhD go for MBA, or what is the best way, or what do you think about this?
Yeah, so most of mine is on the job. I did get an economics minor in college, so I find that side of things kind of interesting. But my company has put us through basic financial training internally, and then once you get to a certain level, then you get invited to another leadership training where they send you to online internal classes, things like that to help you. I think when I was starting out, the best way was to just ask to sit with the finance partner and have the finance partner talk you through the P&L, the balance sheet, find out what the key metrics that your company cares about, and then find out how your job impacts those key metrics. So that way you can talk better and understand better about how your role in the company is helping the company make money. And then once you can talk about that, then, as you grow role, then you keep learning more and more and more about it.
I'm going to jump in with another question, if that's okay. If each of our panelists could tell us a little bit about their experience on campus. Obviously, your studies keep you very busy, but what organizations or experiences did you have outside of the classroom that helped you be prepared for your professional career and for graduation?
Come back to me. Let me think on my answer a little bit.
No problem. I can start. Is that okay with Dr. Jackson, or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just because I remember. Yeah, I did a lot. So, I mean, one of the main things I did, like that very first, I think it's first Thursday. Do you guys still do that? Or maybe it was probably tough this year. But where they have all the different events on campus, that was a great place to sign up for different things. One of the things I found on first Thursday was Engineers Without Borders. That was probably one of my favorites. So I was, had all the leadership roles in that, vice president, president, and we actually got to travel to Bolivia and, do a couple projects there. So that was really fun. I was in Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, not Hispanic, but, you just do it because that's where the networking opportunities are. They had a Noche de Ciencias where they got to help kids learn about science. So just things like that were very impactful to me. I was in National Society of Black Engineers. I was in Society of Petroleum Engineers. Pretty much every engineering organization I could get in, I tried to. Obviously, while still managing everything, but needs a little bit of time management. But it's definitely good to get in those leadership roles. I think that was one of the things in my interviews for internships and things like that the interviewers really like to see, was that you can balance some of the academics as well as do some of these extracurriculars. So those are a few that I joined.
Yeah, I would say it's more important to be involved and find those leadership opportunities, or find what makes you, unique and different than it is to have the 4 points. So, you want to get good grades, but you also want to make sure that you're learning about, who you are and who your future passions are going to be. So I was and still am actively involved in the Society of Women Engineers, AICHE. I was the Graduate Student Association president in graduate school for a couple of years. And I also did research on campus. So that way, both through the research and through leadership opportunities, that gives you these really good nuggets of stories to tell when you're interviewing for jobs that are going to help set you apart.
And for me, my experience, so when I was a student, and I used a lot of career service folks there, and they helped me with my resume. They helped me to do any mock interviews. And the most things that benefit me most would probably be my professors, because they're related to my major, and they know what questions recruiter want to ask. So they really helped me out. So when I was really, really unprepared and showing up in professor's office saying that, hey, I want to, professor, can I practice interview with you? So I was totally clueless. And then professor gave me some critical, constructed advices. They were not really, they didn't sound really wow. Basically me not lacking of knowledge there. But yeah, then I realized that, yeah, I lack of experience, and then I lack of that, so I need to prepare my speech. Then I started to be more prepared. So I really appreciate professors, really appreciate their career service, and that's what I want to say. And then also for students, I just find out the UTULSA Connect after I graduated. So I think this is a really helpful platform too, because I was also a sales engineer, and then several students reached out to me for interview practice. I did that, and then one of the students also found me on the UTULSA Connect and looking for internship. So I was actually in charge of website development for my company's photonic and optics, and I was doing the website myself, so I was looking for help, and the student contacted me. So I just I interviewed the students, and I contact with my boss, and later I successfully helped the student get an internship and to provide her training, and then gave her some insight about the engineering world. Even though she was a marketing student, but she learned a lot, and I got things done. So this is a great platform too. So appreciate this platform.
If I can just jump in, there's an organization called Made at TU. It's in ME department. So that's one of the best like I have found. So try to get involved in that organization. Basically what we do projects for the kids for the special needs. So it's good for your resume, but more important than that, you get to make a real small, humble difference in someone's life. So that's the most exciting part about it.
Yeah, I mean, you all hit it on the head perfectly. Basically, trying to get involved. I was involved. I did a little bit of stuff with like math and computer science groups at TU. Basically, just jump into anything related to what you want to study, what you want to do. Just learn. I mean, just spend all the time just trying to make yourself. Lost my train of thought. Sorry, it's been a little while. Basically, just it's more important to have a lot more experience outside the classroom than having the 4.0, as Christina said. We want to look for, I mean, when you're applying for these internships for these companies, they're going to want people who just have, I mean, the more varied experience you have, the more well-rounded person you can be, the better off it's going to be for you, at least starting out, and the better off you're going to be in the long run. And I mean, with there's just a wide collection of groups at Tulsa. I found a few that I wanted to do. I just jumped in those and I had a blast with it. Let me see. I saw some questions in the chat. This one down here, I see what would you recommend on having to apply internships during COVID?
I can give a couple recommendations, and then I'm hoping maybe some students have had some success and might want to share their thoughts as well. But so the Society of Women Engineers, SHIP, NESB, Grace Hopper, all of those national conferences are still going on. Most of them are planning on being in person in the fall, but many of them have virtual options. And those are still excellent ways to find internships. The companies that attend those are very specifically looking for interns. So that I think is one of the best ways. Certainly in the past, I've gotten internship offers that way. And I go to the Society of Women Engineers Conference each year with Honeywell and help recruit for internships, and know that we are still doing that. Does anybody have any recommendations that you all have had success on finding internships, say, for this summer?
I don't actually have a lot of experience in applying for job, but as I was a sales engineer, pre-sales, so I deal with the clients a lot, new clients a lot. So we're pretty much sending emails and cold callings every day. So I would say it's just a game of numbers. The more you apply, and the more luck you will get. And then when the call, when you receive calls, and make sure that you're prepared, and you know what to say, and you know what you can offer, for the companies, and that's my advice.
The other thing too, I think, is go ahead and work on your backup plan. So if, let's say, you don't get an internship, or you might not get an internship this summer, can you stay on campus and do research? Can you go someplace else and do research for the summer? Can you stay and take a couple classes? What are ways that you can continue to keep your skills sharp through the summer, keep building on your resume that might not be a traditional job? You also can look at, working for like a local company, local to wherever your hometown is, and offer to do it for free. If that's an option for you and you stay with your family, or whatever, just to get the experience and keep building the resume, that's another option.
Yeah, one more thing I would add to that is on the research side, what I would do when I was applying to all the different companies in the fall, I would simultaneously apply for different scholarships to do research in the summer, because I know that can get expensive, going to a different state, not having, getting set up for 3 months. So there are scholarships out there for that. And maybe, yeah, like you said, just kind of plan for both ideally, just in case you have that backup plan ready to go. And I'm not sure if they still do it. Is Dr. Diaz still there? JC Diaz in the computer science and electrical engineering? Does that ring a bell to anybody?
I can't recall the name, so probably too socially isolated. So
no worries.
I think he's still there.
He's still there. Okay. Yeah, no, he had a club specifically for trying to get people into undergraduate research. I forgot the name of the club, but if you find him, I think he'll direct you in a very positive way. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
And I have a question to Christina and to everyone here. So would you guys advise students to take a gap year, or take a gap summer, or gap year to just do some volunteer work, or probably just do nothing and just release the stress? Because we're also facing with COVID. Now the vaccines are out, but back then, so would you guys really advise students to take gap year? I knew a few of my friends do that, but I'm not sure if that's a good decision. So I want to hear you guys' opinion about that.
So I'd love to hear from Spencer and Donovan, because they're newer into the workforce. I will say, I think many, just honestly, many HR systems are antiquated. So in the past, I've seen where if you apply for a job and there's this gap in your resume, then the HR system itself filters you out, and you don't get to a person. Once I was looking for a candidate who I knew was applying. I asked HR, where is she? And they said, oh, well, she was filtered out because she had this 4-year gap in her resume. I said, she had a kid. She took time off. I'm trying to hire her back from that. I knew that, but HR was not prepared for that. So it's not a reason not to do it. I think your mental health is more important than a job. So if a gap year is important to you, I think you can have great experiences. I do think in the engineering field, there's still a lot of antiquated systems, still a lot of old school folks who don't understand it. And so you just have to be prepared to explain the benefits that you saw from it.
I agree. I actually had, but during my layoff period, I applied for job and applied for college as well. Yeah, and most of them asked me, what would I do from now, since you will lay off? So they actually questioned about that, and so I just be honest, because I was actually doing things, applying for job and applying for college, and so yeah, so personally, I would just say, just look for any opportunity that you don't leave a gap on your resume. So as a newbie, I would say it's safer helps your resume to look nicer. So I agree with Christina.
I, as somebody who hires people, I look, is there a gap? When there's a gap, was it in 2008? Was it in 2015? Right? Is it now? And those were big layoff years for the oil and gas industry. And so, I think we try as hiring managers to be cognizant of that. So the key is, find the hiring managers on LinkedIn, find people who work at the company that you want to talk to, get your resume in their hands in addition to applying through an HR system.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of a few friends who had gotten laid off last year as well. One of the things they tried to do was, even though they're technically off, they try to do something a little bit extra. So they went and got like a coding certification from data camp, or just something here and there that shows that you are still working on keeping your mind busy, and just something to kind of help you talk through that gap a little bit. Say, oh, while I was taking care of my child, I also did this. So just something to add in there maybe.
So I see another question about internships and how to get the most out of them. From my perspective, I think internships can vary widely, whether they're very formal and structured, and whether it's really kind of on your own. So if it's one of those where it's on your own and they don't have a formal program that rotates you around and gets you to meet everybody, then that's where you have to do it yourself. So I highly recommend finding once a week, even if it's you scheduling a meeting with somebody from a different group or a different team, or something that you think might be interesting to you, or that'll teach you something that you don't already know. Don't be shy about asking to schedule those. And it drives me nuts when somebody says, hey, can I schedule this meeting with you? When's good for you? I'm like, my calendar is up to date, man. Just schedule the meeting. So I don't have time to schedule the meeting for you. So just do it. In the invite, say, I would really like to get to know you. I think that you have this topic that I would like to know more about. I'm just suggesting this time. If this doesn't work for you, I'm very open to changing it. And that is a far better approach. Just try to make the most out of that 3 months that you have and get to know as many people as you can.
I agree. Yeah. So yeah, one thing I regret doing was that I was on my desk every lunch and then eating my lunch there. But I wish I would have invited my coworkers out one every day and to know what they're doing, to be friend with them, and they may be really helpful, giving me career advice or any industry insights, or they maybe just become a good friends. And I wish I did that, but I did not. So I regret that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing I try to do during my internship with Oxy and the other ones is try to go to all usually they'll have like little team building things after work, every now and then, like bowling, we went, like a happy hour, just little things like that. Again, even if you don't drink, I didn't drink either, but just to hang around and get to know your coworkers a bit better. And then expanding on Dr. Jackson's point. So one thing I did was with the president of our company now, I just sent him an invite one day. Hey, my name is Donovan. I'm an intern. I don't know what you do, but I want to learn about it. Does 11 a.m. work? And I scheduled it. He said, yep, that's great. Went on up to the top floor. It's like right below the CEO in terms of organizational structure. And we just talked for like an hour about what he does. And so, yeah, I mean, literally everyone's everyone loves to help interns, so do not be afraid to take advantage of that.
And also for when we say get the most out of it, so in one aspect, the technical aspect, you can try to be active and smile all the time, and just to say, oh, can I help out here? Anything, even though it's not directly related to your major, or mechanical or electrical. I was electrical, and then I was active and smiling, happy. Oh, they try to be fake happy sometimes. And some piping guy, they started complaining about some issues with the project. So I listened to their complaints because they're way senior than you. And when they complain, because they couldn't complain directly, or they may not want to complain directly to their boss, they complain to you, and you listen and make them feel happy, and they will start to teach you something that even it may not sound directly related, but the whole project, they're always related, and each components, they're related. So, and sometimes when you don't have any work from your boss, they may give you work, they may give you charge number, they ask you for help, and sooner you start to learn more, be more reliable, and you feel more confident. And that's the technical side of the get most out of an internship.
The other key, I think, so I interned for 2 different oil companies in college, and one of them I very much disliked, and one of them I really liked. And they're both, I was in a refinery both times, right? Very similar work. And so the culture is incredibly important. So I think it's important for you to consider when you're in an internship, do you like the environment, right? So the refinery type environment, is that something that you like? Because that would be the same either way. But also, do you like the culture? And when you interact with people, does it feel natural? Because it should. And if it doesn't, then you probably need to try to find a different job long term.
Christina, I have a question. So you say you work in the refinery before. So I love field. I want to be a field guys. I didn't have any opportunity going out to the field. So do you, or what do you guys think of any downside of working out in the field? Is there any bad things that you don't like about working in the field?
So, I mean, I personally prefer office work, right? So I think it's important to go out into the field, and I think it's important to get that experience. But I personally prefer, business casual and sitting in a conference room that's air conditioned. So I think it's important to know that about yourself and be okay with that. But also know that it's important to go out to where your product is either being manufactured, being installed, or used, so that you get that experience as well.
I have a question, if that's okay. And this is either to Ms. Jackson or Mr. Edisoro, but a lot of the times when trying to apply to a big company, it's hard to kind of get exposure, or like if they don't come to your school for recruitment, and you're really trying to like aim high, what should we do to kind of put ourselves out there and have a higher opportunity to get noticed by, I don't know, a big company, like, I don't know, whether that's company like Honeywell or Oxy or Boeing, or I don't know, big companies like that, and they don't come to your school. I mean, they obviously, Oxy and Honeywell do, but I'm just saying in more general terms, like a big company, what's a good way to get exposure?
Donovan, you have thoughts you want to share first?
Yes, I mean, I interned, all 3 companies were recruiters at TU. So, but I would say one of the things I tried to do was I was looking at BP. So BP is obviously massive company. They don't directly recruit at TU. One thing I did was they have these kind of 2 it's like a 3-day, I don't know, camp, so to speak. Like, so one was related about chemical engineering. So it's like a 3-day camp. They'll fly you out to their refinery in Chicago. You apply for it, obviously, and you get it. They fly you out. Just something to build the network a little bit better. And so I think if I didn't get the internship with Devin and Oxy, then I could have reached out to the recruiter from those that little camp, so to speak, and say, hey, do you have any positions available? And that way I have like direct access to a person at the company. Aside from that, yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure. I don't want to steer you wrong, but yeah, look for something small like that you could potentially get into.
I still think, going to the large conferences where they do recruit is an excellent way for you to get access to those companies. I had an offer for DuPont when I graduated from undergrad, and DuPont doesn't recruit here. And, I met them initially at a SWE conference and did the first interview through there. So that's a really good way. But honestly, the full-time offer that I ended up taking was with Michelin, and that was a cold application on the internet, right? So if your resume is strong enough, then you may get an ask for interview, even if you've never talked to a human before. So don't be afraid, after you have the resume and if it's in a format that's easy to upload, just do it. Because you might hear back and you might not, but there's no harm in doing it.
Would it be a bad idea to maybe reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn or find people who worked for that company on LinkedIn, or is that a little weird?
So I think it depends. So if it's for internships, I think that's a lot harder. Most companies, except for small independent ones, have very specific ways that they find interns. And you have to figure out what that way is, and you follow that process. There's really hard to bypass that process. Now, small companies, locally owned, individually, privately owned companies, those have very different rules. And those you can reach out to on LinkedIn, find the HR person, and go for it. As far as looking for a full-time job, I think anything is game. So, leverage your contacts, anybody that you know on LinkedIn. All of that is fair game at that point. But internships, it's very prescriptive, at least for a company as big as Honeywell. Looks like we're coming up on our hour. Are there any final questions?
Yeah, just to kind of close things off, what would you guys say is the hardest part of your job, whether that's conceptually or time management? Yeah.
Spencer, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, on my end, it's definitely time management. Just, I don't know, in the HVAC industry, there's always a lot of stuff flying around all the time. It's just trying to manage that as best as you can. And then, I mean, just basically, I'm always dealing with quotes, always dealing with trying to get orders placed and getting equipment from one place to another in the timely manner that our customer needs. And at least once a week, there'll be a situation where someone calls in and says, hey, I need some, we have to drop everything. We need this right now. So your entire focus is just that. Basically just being able to get ready for anything to just land on your plate. Just being able to manage that as best as you can. That's the hardest part for me and my team, at least. Christina, what do you think?
Honestly, it's going to be the same answer. So time management, I think, is key. And with that, I think the most important thing to do is understand what the most critical priorities are. And if that's not clear to you, then you go to your manager. And if your manager can't answer that, then your manager needs to figure out his or her priorities. So I think time management, the way the industry moves, the speed it moves now is tough. Make sure that you're carving out enough time for your mental health, that you're not trying to work all day and all night, and make sure that you understand what your priorities are. Donovan?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hate to take the easy answer, but yeah, it's got to be the same thing. And the reason I say that is because, you know, TU prepares you so well technically, right? I mean, you guys are going to be able to figure out the technical aspect. Maybe you're going to have challenges for sure, but in terms of the most challenging, yeah, it's definitely, you know, all these things are coming up at different times. How do I prioritize which one I do first? And sometimes your manager will say one thing, but then they're like, wait, what about the other thing? I'm like, well, you asked me for this first. I was working on that. So, you know, little things like that, but you know, you get the hang of it, and I think it probably just with time, you get better at it. So, yeah, in terms of technically, you guys will be just fine.
And the Daniel Whistling in the chat brought up a very good point. It's going to be, you likely never find a place that's fully staffed for the work. So it's almost always going to be time management. There's a balance between how much work is taken on and how many people are hired. That's a very great point, Daniel. That's exactly what my team is facing right now. Most of us have been in the industry for less than a year, and we're trying to learn a bunch and trying to take on the work that 15 outside sales guys are sending us for 5 people to split up. So it's trying to drink out of a fire hose. Do we have any other questions at the moment, or?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Francis Anosike. I graduated from TU Masters Petroleum Engineering in 2007. So it's a pleasure being here and attending this gathering today. I just want to know what will be a few points you would like to say for experienced engineers trying to kind of move jobs. Do you have any advice or any suggestions?
I think this would have been a good one for Dr. Jackson, but I think she just left.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Spencer. I'll let you take it.
No, I was going to say Dr. Jackson would have had probably the best answer, because I'm only out of school 5 years, and Donovan, you were 2 years ago, so still a lot that we're trying to.
Okay, no problem. I put the question on the chat. If she has time, she could get it back. But
yeah, I mean, I think with anything, I think if you have a network that you've built out in other either industries or in other companies, that's the first thing I would go to. That's just with any question or any challenge I have is straight to my network. So that'd be my only, probably obvious, but it's the only thing that I got.
I'm still a student at TU, but this question was kind of asked in one of our classes last year, and Dr. Moran, who is a professor at the University of Tulsa, said that if you're trying to switch industries, it'd be a good idea to look for volunteer opportunities or like research opportunities or normal projects that you can start on yourself to put on your resume, and maybe that will get attention of others.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, it's a pleasure hanging out listening to you guys and sharing your experience. And I hope we'll do this thing sometime again.
Sounds good. Thank you for the question.
Sure. Yeah,
Thank
I have
you.
a meeting to run to, but if you have any final questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any additional questions that you guys have. And you guys have a great semester and year.
All right, thank you, Spencer. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, it's fun to see you guys here. Thank you.